Natural right, a right that is conceived as part of natural law, and that is therefore thought to exist independently of rights created by the government or society, such as the right to life, liberty, and property. So here we're clearly seeing that a natural right exists independently of anything that the government can create or anything that the society does create. And it gives an example, such as the right to life, liberty, and property. This is not inclusive. It's not saying that only the right to life, liberty, and property is a natural right, but it's teaching us and giving us an example that the right to life, liberty, and property are natural rights. They're not statutory rights. And again, by definition, it says that these natural rights, they exist independently. They exist apart from, separate from the government or society. The government did not create these rights, but they must recognize these rights and have respect towards these rights and ensure these rights. Natural law, a physical law of nature, a philosophical system of legal and moral principles. All right, so natural law is a system of legal principles, not just moral principles, not just philosophical principles, but they actually create a legal principle that must be respected and must be ensured. And it says purportedly deriving from a universalized conception of human nature or divine justice, rather than from legislative or judicial action. So we're presented with two options here, because it reads as follows: a universalized conception of human nature or divine justice. So there's two options presented. Well, where does the natural right come from? And where does natural law come from? Well, some will say, well, it's from God. It's from the Creator. It's divine justice. And some would say, no, it's a philosophical principle of humankind, of mankind, understanding that there are rights that exist apart from what the government can create. So some individuals read this definition in black laws and they take it as the all in all. And they take it as an authority, right? And they say, look, it says divine justice. Therefore, natural law and natural rights come from God. And therefore, I'm going to claim my rights that they come from God. So they'll focus on that one aspect of the definition where it says that it's divine justice. But they negate and they forget to look at the rest of the definition where it states purportedly. And purportedly means it's a way that's stated to be true, although this may not be the case. It implies that something is claimed or alleged, but not necessarily proven. So it's not a proven fact. You can't claim by proven fact that my natural rights and natural law exist because of God. You can claim it, but it's not a proven fact. And if you take an unproven fact before a judiciary, what's going to happen? What we know in fact and matter is that natural law produces legal principles. These are principles that produce accountability and obligation upon any authority, upon any hierarchy of the government, claiming authority to rule. Okay, so you claim you're an authority. You claim you have power to rule. You claim you have law backing you up. All right, then you have an accountability and a responsibility to natural law and natural rights, because they bring forth not a recommendation, not a suggestion, but a valid legal principle to allow the expression of natural rights to operate. And when we look a little bit deeper, a natural right is a right that cannot be transferred or surrendered. A natural right can never be limited or abridged. No derogation can ever be placed upon a natural right. And natural rights are primary rights. They are foundational rights. And everything else, every operation of law is subordinate to these rights. It's not the other way around. Statutory law does not create subordination to our natural rights. Natural rights call for statutory law to subordinate itself to these rights. The government likes to play a game with you and me. They like to pretend and they like to say that statutory law can override an inalienable right. That statutory law is the hierarchy of the structure in law, and that you must submit to it. You must surrender your natural right. Well, that's deception, and that's a lie, and that's dishonesty, and that's not the truth. In fact, just the opposite prevails. Natural law and natural rights supersede any government statutory power that can be created. And we have court judgments that teach us this, that our rights existed long before the creation of the state, and they are not subjected to the will of the state, even though they try, even though they operate in deception to try and steal your rights, to try and deceive you and confuse you. Thompson Newspaper Limited versus Canada. His rights are such as existed by the law of the land, antecedent to the organization of the state. So the rights, natural law, they existed by the law of the land, not by statutory law, not by domestic law, not by government law. They are rights that exist because they are natural rights, and they belong to each and every one of us, and they are inalienable, and they cannot be limited or abridged. There is no principle of fundamental justice that exists in domestic law or international law that allows a government to limit and abridge, to remove your right. But they try, and they try very hard. They create their statutory law, and then they try to apply their statutory law against you and say you owe an obligation, even if it overrides your natural right. But ding dong, Mr. Government, you are wrong. And under the international order, they recognize the principles that are proclaimed within these covenants, and the principle that all men and women have inalienable rights, and that they can stand under these inalienable rights. That's an operation of law that exists and can be claimed and can be stood upon. It's the foundation of all law. It's the foundation of all governance. And any government and any domestic power that attempts to break this rule of law is against the authority that is in operation and that is governing their actions. The government are the ones that are operating illegally, that are operating outside the principles of justice, outside the rule of law, and contrary to their obligation. If the government fails to respect your natural rights, your inalienable rights, then they are failing in their duty, and they are legally accountable for what they are doing. Ignorance is no excuse, although they do it not in ignorance. They do it on purpose to control and to govern individuals. And some think that's okay. They think it's fine. They believe it's okay to take these actions contrary to the international order, contrary to the laws of the land. Well, we're going to do it. We're going to limit and abridge their rights. Why? Well, it's for the betterment of society. Who told you to be the judge? Who gave you permission to judge for all of us and to make these decisions? And your decisions are illegal. And your actions are against the rule of law and against the principles of justice. So while you look at individuals and try and apply your statutory power and say, oh, you're not following your duty and your obligation to statutory law. Well, guess what? You're not following your duty and your obligation to the international order, to natural law, to natural rights. And then the government takes secondary actions aimed at the destruction of human rights, aimed at the destruction of absolute rights. When they create laws through domestic law to try and hide your remedy, instead of producing an effective remedy, instead of producing measures that allow individuals to have their inalienable rights respected when the government interferes with them, the legislators of Canada think they're slick and smart. They make up laws that confuse people. They make up court structures that confuse people and that disallow them from obtaining remedy against a violation of the state, against a violation of natural rights. And those actions are illegal. The Florida State Constitution, Section 2, Basic Rights. All natural persons, female and male alike, are equal before the law and have inalienable rights. The Constitution of California, Article 1, all men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights. The Constitution of Illinois, inherent and inalienable rights. All men are by nature free and independent and have certain inherent and inalienable rights. The Constitution of Ohio, inalienable rights. All men are by nature free and independent and have certain inalienable rights. Constitution of Indiana, we declare that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. North Carolina Constitution, we hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. According to the constitutions of the states, in the United States of America, we find the following subject and players being enumerated and listed and brought forth in the Constitution Act. All natural persons have inalienable rights. All men have certain inalienable rights. All people have certain inalienable rights. All persons have certain inalienable rights. And then some of these false teachers, some of these straw man teachers who have no idea what they're talking about, they're going to tell you, oh, well, if you say you're a person, then you don't have inalienable rights. If you say you're a people, then you don't have inalienable rights. If you claim to be a natural person, then you don't have inalienable rights. Why do they say these things? Because they themselves are confused and they don't understand the law and they don't understand the operations thereof, and they're just talking to talk. And many people are buying into their garbage and buying into their false principles of justice. Their made up principles of justice, their made up rule of law that they're throwing out there to individuals. And guess what? All of you men and all of you women are accountable. Accountable to what? Well, to deceiving individuals and to operating against the international order and to being a part of confusing people and damning people from their natural rights. And you know what? You may not even see it and you may not even recognize it, but I'm going to wake you up to it tonight. If you are teaching things that are against the principles of justice, that are against the rule of law, that go against the ICCPR and the international order, then you are guilty of breaching Article 5 of the ICCPR. And guess what? Guess what? The state party can use this against you and come against you and make a lot of legal trouble for you for the things you are teaching. Oh, but I'm just teaching about what I understand and what I believe. It's no excuse. No excuse. They're going to get you. They're going to come for you. warning you, warning all of you on YouTube who are putting up these videos under false operations of law. They're coming for you shortly. They're going to use the international order and the real principles of justice and the real rule of law to hold you accountable for the things that you have put up on YouTube and the things you have put up on social media. Because whether you realize it or not, that doesn't matter. If you are teaching false concepts about absolute rights, about human rights, about common law rights, then you are guilty of taking actions aimed at the destruction of the rights in the international covenants. Well, but I didn't mean to. I didn't really want to do that. That's no excuse. You want to call yourself a teacher. You want to make yourself out to be a guru and have people follow you. But they're following wrong principles of justice. And they're following not the rule of law because of what you are declaring. Well, your declarations will make you accountable. Well, why are you being so hard? Why are you saying these things? Well, I'm saying these things to help you and to wake you up because you think that you get away with it and you think that it's okay, but it's not. And I'm warning everybody on YouTube. They are watching and they are preparing. Preparing what? Well, preparing to tear you down. Preparing to tear your false teachings down. Why? Well, because they have the rule of law behind them. And they have the fundamental principles of justice behind them. And just like they use statutory law against all individuals, they're going to use the rule of law to silence your voice, to silence your channel. And it is legal. Because you put yourself in that situation. Because you purported yourself out to the public to claim to know what you're talking about and know what you're teaching and telling people everything's a contract, everything's trust. Don't you understand that those are actions aimed at the destruction of the international order? Those are operations of law that go against the international order. And by default, right, they can come against you. And they can claim that what you're doing is illegal. And what you're teaching is illegal. And they can make a lot of problems for you. And what? Why is this going to happen? Well, because you thought you were right. And you thought that what you were teaching was right. But it was against the international order. It was against that which controls domestic governments and the people thereof. And there's no excuse. There's nothing that can be said. There's no protection mechanism that you can call on.